"Do not touch." The sign read, but the human soldier couldn't walk away. The warning sign was old, scratched, and half-burned, but the words were still clear. "Do not touch." It stood alone in the dust of an abandoned alien outpost, leaning like it was tired of standing. Most soldiers would have walked past it without slowing down. Most soldiers were trained to obey signs, orders, and fear. But the human soldier did not stop walking because of training. He stopped because of silence. His name was Elias Trent. He was not a hero in stories. He was not famous. He was just another human sent far from Earth to keep peace in places that did not want peace. The outpost had been empty for years. At least that was what the official records said. No life signs, no power signals, no reason to be here. Still, Elias felt something was wrong. The air was too still, the dust was untouched, and the silence felt heavy, like it was holding its breath. His squad had moved ahead to secure the perimeter. They trusted sensors more than instincts. Elias trusted his instincts more than machines. He looked again at the sign. "Do not touch." No explanation, no threat, just a command left behind by someone long gone. Behind the sign stood a large alien structure, smooth black metal, tall, like a tower. Its surface was covered in strange symbols that looked more like scars than writing. Elias stepped closer. His helmet scanner showed nothing. No heat, no movement, but his chest felt tight. He remembered stories told in quiet moments, stories about ancient alien tech, about prisons built to hold things too dangerous to kill, about warnings left for future generations. Hoping they would listen, Elias should have turned away. That was the smart choice. That was the safe choice. Then he heard it, a sound, soft, weak, almost like a breath. He froze, his hand tightened around his rifle. The sound came again, not from the open desert, but from inside the black structure. Elias opened a private channel. He whispered to his squad leader. No response, only static. The silence was no longer empty. It was watching. He moved closer to the structure. Every step felt heavier than the last. The symbols on the surface began to glow faintly, like they knew he was there. The sign stood between him and the structure. "Do not touch." The words felt less like a rule and more like fear. Elias reached out anyway. The moment his glove touched the metal, the world changed, the ground trembled, the symbols flared with bright blue light, and the structure opened with a deep sound that felt older than stars. Elias was thrown back. He hit the ground hard, his vision blurred. Warning alerts filled his helmet display. Then everything went quiet again. When he stood up, the structure was open. Inside was not darkness. Inside was light. A soft glowing chamber stood revealed. At its center floated a figure, suspended in the air by fields of energy. It was not human. Its shape was tall and thin. Its skin looked like silver glass, cracked and worn. Its eyes were closed. Chains of light wrapped around its body. Not physical chains, energy restraints, old and failing. Elias felt a deep pressure in his mind. Like someone was trying to speak without words. Images flashed before his eyes. Stars burning, fleets destroyed, worlds falling silent. Then another image, the same being, standing alone against an entire armada, holding the line while others escaped. Elias staggered. His heart raced. This was not a monster. This was not a weapon. This was a prisoner. The pressure in his mind shifted. The feeling changed. Fear turned into pain. Pain turned into exhaustion. The being was dying. Elias checked his readings. The energy field was failing. If it collapsed, the being would die, or worse, explode. The sign suddenly made sense. Do not touch. Not to protect the galaxy from it, but to protect it from the galaxy. Footsteps echoed behind him. His squad was returning. Voices filled the comms again, asking what he had triggered, telling him to step away. Elias did not move. He looked at the being one more time, and made a decision that would change everything. He reached for the control panel, ignoring warnings, ignoring orders, ignoring fear. Because humans had a problem. When they saw suffering, they did not walk away. And as his fingers hovered over the release controls, the ancient prisoner finally opened its eyes, and the galaxy took its first breath before the storm. The prison that began to remember the ancient chamber shook as alarms without sound rippled through the air. Elias stood frozen, his hands still hovering near the glowing controls. The being's eyes were now open. And they were not empty, they were ancient. They carried memory. They carried loss. The light chains around the prisoner pulsed faster. Reacting to Elias's presence, symbols along the walls changed shape. Like the prison itself was waking up after a long sleep, Elias took a slow breath. He reminded himself he was just a soldier, not a judge, not a god. Yet the galaxy had placed this moment in his hands. The pressure in his mind returned. stronger than before. This time it was clearer. Not words, but meaning. He saw a dying civilization, billions fleeing in burning ships. He saw this being standing at the edge of a collapsing star system, turning back when everyone else ran. It had not been locked away for cruelty. It had volunteered, choosing chains instead of extinction. Elias whispered without realizing it, "You stayed behind." The being's eyes softened. The pressure eased slightly, as if it understood him. Outside the chamber, his squad shouted. They demanded status. They demanded answers. They demanded he step away from the structure. Elias muted the channel. For the first time in his life, he chose silence over orders. The control panel glowed brighter. Alien language scrolled across it. But something strange happened. The symbols began to change. They simplified. They adjusted. The prison was adapting to him. Learning him, Elias realized something that made his stomach tighten. This system had been designed to work with multiple species. It was not just a cage, it was a test. Only those willing to understand could use it. He placed his hand on the panel fully this time. The metal felt warm, alive. Pain flashed through his arm, not injury, connection. The prison reached into his mind, reading intent, measuring fear, weighing mercy. Elias remembered Earth, blue skies, crowded streets, children laughing without knowing how fragile peace was. He remembered battlefields too, friends lost, orders that came too late, help that never arrived. The system paused, as if thinking. Then one restraint flickered and dimmed. Not gone, just weaker. The being reacted instantly. Its body trembled. A sound escaped its chest, half relief, half warning. Elias staggered back. "What are you?" he asked softly. This time the answer came clearer. Not a name, but a title. Guardian. The word echoed inside him, not chosen by pride, but by duty. The Guardian showed him more. It showed a council of ancient species, afraid, divided. They had feared the Guardian's power, but feared the enemy more, so they had sealed it away, not as punishment, but as a last lock on a door they hoped would never be opened. Elias understood the truth then. The enemy was not gone. It was delayed, and now, something was coming back. The prison alarms intensified. Red light mixed with blue. Systems failed one by one. Time had done what no weapon could. The Guardian was running out of moments. Elias opened his squad channel again. "Evacuate," he said calmly. "Get to minimum safe distance." They argued. They demanded explanations. But Elias used a tone that left no room for debate. Reluctantly, they pulled back. The chamber doors began to close on their own. The prison did not want witnesses, or interference. Elias was alone now. Just a human soldier and a forgotten legend. The Guardian's gaze locked onto him, and for the first time, Elias felt something unexpected. Respect, not for his strength, but for his choice. Another restraint faded. The energy fields weakened, but still held. Elias realized the prison was not asking him to release it fully. Not yet. It was asking for trust. He looked at the sign outside through the open doorway. "Do not touch." He understood now. The sign was not a warning. It was a plea. Do not touch. Unless you are ready to carry what follows. Elias straightened his back. Fear still lived in his chest, but it no longer ruled him. "I don't know how to save you," he said quietly, "but I won't let you die alone." The Guardian closed its eyes again, not in sleep, but in patience, deep within the structure. Something ancient shifted. A signal escaped into the void, so faint no sensor could track it. But somewhere far beyond known space, something answered, and humanity had just been noticed. When the galaxy looked back, the stars moved. Not fast, not violently, but wrong. Elias noticed it through his helmet display. Navigation markers drifted by a fraction, like the universe had adjusted its posture, deep inside the prison. The Guardian reacted before any alarm sounded. The remaining restraints pulsed with unstable light, not weakening, not strengthening, preparing. Elias felt it again, that pressure in his mind. But this time it was not memory, it was warning. Something had felt the signal, something ancient, something hungry. Outside the structure, space itself began to distort. A thin line appeared in the sky, not light, not darkness. A cut? Elias swallowed. He had seen battlefield horrors. But this was different. This was scale beyond soldiers. His squad comes crackled back to life, voices tight with fear, asking why the stars were bending, asking if this was an attack. Elias did not answer. He was listening to something else. The Guardian shared a single thought. They have found the door. Images slammed into Elias's mind, worlds hollowed out, civilizations erased so cleanly that no ruins remained. Only silence. The enemy did not conquer. It consumed. Elias felt cold, not from fear, from understanding. The prison was not just a cell. It was a beacon, a locked signal that said, "This threat is contained." By touching it, Elias had changed the message, not broken it, but updated it. Containment failing. Guardian awakening. The cut in space widened. A massive shape began to press through. Too large for form. Too alien for shape. The Guardian's restraints flared violently. Energy surged into the chamber walls. The prison was no longer holding the Guardian. It was feeding it. Elias stumbled as gravity shifted. The structure reoriented itself, aligning toward the tier in space. The Guardian opened its eyes again. This time they burned like newborn stars. No rage, only purpose. Guardian must stand. The thought came, heavy and final. Elias felt something twist in his chest. "You can't fight that alone," he said, even if the Guardian did not need words. For the first time, the Guardian hesitated. Not from doubt, from concern. "Small life burns fast," it replied. Elias laughed once, short and breathless. "Yeah," he said, "that's kind of our thing." The prison systems screamed silently. Restraints shattered into light, not removed, transformed. The energy wrapped around the Guardian like armor, shaped by ancient design and new intent. Outside, the tier in space pushed wider. A presence spilled through, felt more than seen. Ilias's squad was retreating at maximum burn. Their fear was a distant echo now. The Guardian extended a hand toward Elias, not commanding, asking, "Link." Elias did not hesitate. He removed his glove, pressed bare skin to alien light. Pain exploded through him. Not damage. Connection. His mind expanded, not stronger, broader. He felt the Guardian's age, its loneliness, its endless watch, and the Guardian felt humanity, brief, fierce, unwilling to look away. The enemy pushed harder. The void screamed without sound. Elias felt himself changing, not physically, but in role. He was no longer just a witness, he was part of the line. The Guardian spoke one final thought, calm and unbreakable, "Then we stand together." As the first tendril of the consuming darkness crossed into real space, a human soldier and an ancient Guardian faced it side by side, and for the first time in a very long age, the enemy felt resistance. The line, "Humanity was never meant to hold the first impact," did not look like an explosion. It looked like reality giving up, where the darkness touched space. Stars dimmed, not destroyed, drained. Elias felt it through the link, a pressure like an ocean pushing against a single wall. The Guardian did not panic. It adjusted. Ancient energy surged outward, forming a wide shield between the tier and the system. The prison structure cracked and folded, rebuilding itself into a massive anchor of light. This was what it had always been meant for. Elias screamed as the strain tore through him. His body was human, fragile, unfinished for this kind of war. The Guardian steadied him, not by force, by sharing the load. "Small life bends," it said gently, "but it does not break easily." The enemy pushed again. A wave of nothingness rolled forward. Whole sections of space went silent. Even light refused to cross it. Elias felt fear then, pure and honest, not for himself, but for Earth. He saw it in his mind, a blue dot spinning quietly. Unaware that the dark had found a new path, he focused, on streets, on voices, on ordinary moments worth protecting. The link responded. The Guardian felt it. Human memory was not power, but it was fuel. The shield thickened. Light burned brighter. The enemy hesitated, for the first time. Confusion rippled through it. Across the system, sensors flared back to life. Civilian ships picked up impossible readings. Ancient defense networks long thought dead awakened. They had been waiting, not for the Guardian, but for proof. Proof that someone still cared enough to stand. Ilias's squad watched from afar, recording everything, sending desperate bursts toward human space. The message was simple. We are not alone, and we are not ready. The Guardian shifted its stance, energy armor locking into place, its attention fully on the tier. The enemy struck again, this time with intent. A massive limb forced its way through the breach, not flesh, not machine, absent shaped like a weapon. The shield cracked. Light shattered into fragments. Elias fell to one knee. Blood filled his mouth, his vision blurred. The Guardian caught him, holding him upright. "Human cannot fall," it said. "Not yet." Elias laughed weakly. "You really don't know us." He reached into the link, not asking for strength, but offering something else. Choice. He opened a channel, not to his squad, but to every human relay in range. Unknown contact. He transmitted. "Hostile beyond scale. If you can hear this, remember who we are." The Guardian felt it instantly. That reckless human instinct, to warn, to invite. Energy surged unpredictably. The shield flared uneven but stronger. The enemy recoiled slightly, not hurt, but surprised. The tier in space began to destabilize, not closing, shifting. The Guardian understood then. Humanity did not hold the line by design, they held it by refusing to step back. The Guardian turned its gaze inward, toward the core of the structure, toward a final reserve it had never used. This will cost much, it warned. Elias wiped blood from his chin. Yeah, he said, that also sounds familiar. As the enemy gathered itself for one last push, the Guardian began to burn from within, not dying, transforming, and somewhere across the stars, human ships began to turn around. The moment the galaxy learned the human name, the final clash did not come like a storm, it came like a decision. The enemy gathered itself beyond the tear, no longer testing, no longer curious, it chose to erase. The Guardian stood at the center of the burning structure, its form now pure light and will. The prison no longer existed as a place, it existed as purpose. Elias could barely stand, his body trembled, bones screaming, vision fading, yet his mind was clear, clearer than it had ever been. Through the link, he felt the Guardian preparing to end everything. Not just the enemy, but itself. A final act, a seal made of sacrifice. Elias understood instantly. If the Guardian burned completely, the tier would close, the enemy would be pushed back beyond reach, but the Guardian would be gone, forever. No, Elias whispered, not as an order, as a plea. The Guardian paused. You have done enough. Small life. Elias forced himself upright, blood dripping onto alien light. We don't win by dying alone, he said. We win by staying. He reached deeper into the link, past pain, past fear, into something raw and human. Hope. He shared Earth again. Not the beauty this time, but the defiance. Cities rebuilt after ruin, people standing in floods, fires, wars, refusing to disappear. The Guardian felt it fully, and for the first time in its endless existence, it laughed, a sound like stars colliding gently. Then a new idea formed, not ancient, not planned, human. Instead of burning alone, the Guardian spread the energy outward, along the signal Elias had sent earlier. Human ships answered, not with weapons, but with presence. They arrived in waves, too small to matter by ancient standards, too stubborn to ignore. The enemy struck one last time, pouring itself through the collapsing tier. The Guardian and Elias stood together at the center, human courage and ancient power braided into one stand. Light exploded outward, not destructive, resolute. The tier snapped shut, not sealed by force, but denied by will. Silence returned, not empty, peaceful. The Guardian dimmed, its form shrinking, but not fading away. It turned to Elias. Your kind has changed the equation. Elias smiled weakly. That's what we do. Rescue teams reached him moments later, pulling him back from the edge of light, calling his name like it mattered. As Elias lost consciousness, he felt one last thought from the Guardian, warm and certain. The galaxy will remember this day, not as the return of the Guardian, but as the moment humans stood, and far across the stars, new signs began to appear near ancient ruins, written in many languages.